call Independent School District 721 to order. Please note that all school board members are present except Gene Kubish, and we'll stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
First and seconded, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. All right. All right, so we're going to have technically 3 meetings tonight, just so everybody's aware. So we'll have the organizational meeting, which we just called into session, but then we'll, once we're done through with that work portion of it, we'll go in, we'll open up a work session meeting, which will be our second meeting, and then lastly, we'll close out that, and then we'll actually open up a special second meeting and then we'll close it right away and go right into negotiations, essentially. So there's going to be 3 meetings. So this meeting, organizational, 2, the work session, and 3 will be a special meeting, which will be closed at that point. So just want to make sure everybody's kind of aware of the plan for tonight. So, so moving on to the next piece of the agenda, we have the organizational portion of our meeting for the year. First on the agenda is that we had a resignation. I would like to announce the resignation of Gene Kubish, who has served many, many years. What was the official amount of years? 12? 12 years. She, earlier this week, announced that she would like to step down from her role as school board member, and I want to thank her publicly for her service for her 12 years here. And we'll put that on our discussion for later in the agenda, so in our work session, to discuss how we want to fill that, how we're going to fill that role. We'll leave that to that portion of the meeting. And I know we've historically done a couple of different things, or it sounds like we've done the same thing the last couple of times, and but we'll talk through that, how we'll fill that vacancy here. So, but any other comments? Just otherwise, I just wanted to make sure I made that announcement first off the bat.
We'll miss her. She
Yeah.
was a good board member, and have her heart in the right place when it came to the school district.
Agreed.
She was very good to me as a new member, too.
All right. Well, thank you.
I would agree, and I'd like to
yeah.
echo those on behalf of the school district. Thank Jean for her 12 years. I believe it was 12 years of service. That's what she indicated to me. I do think we need to take a motion to accept her resignation.
Okay.
Second, and then vote on that,
Okay.
if that's all right.
All right. No, I would entertain a motion to.
Second.
Been first and seconded. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. All right. Next on the agenda is the election of officers for the 2024 calendar year. So this is always a fun and natural thing to do. So I'm going to start off. The process will be that I'll call for nominations. I'll do it multiple times through a nomination process. If there's no, if there's not multiple people, then I'll just by acclamation say that person is that role. If there's multiple people, then we'll go through a vote, and it'll be a whole roll call vote of people, because it has to be public. So, all right. So I will open up nominations. Nominations are now in order for the office of chair. Is there any nominations for chair?
I nominate Matt.
All right.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been first and second. So Matt Goldaddy has been nominated. Are there any other nominations for chair? Are there any other nominations for chair? Are there any further nominations for the office of chair? If there are no other further nominations, nominations for the chair, office of chair are closed, and I, by acclamation, make myself chair. So, all right.
Heavy hangs the head that wears the crown.
Yes. All right, that one's done. So next, I will open up nominations for the office of vice chair.
I nominate Mark.
Second.
Nomination for Mark Bartuszczyk. Are there any other nominations for the office of vice chair? Are there any further nominations for vice chair? Are there any other further nominations for vice chair? If no other nominations, the nominations for office of vice chair are closed, and I, by acclamation, make you vice chair. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Nominations are now in order for the office of clerk.
I nominate Denny.
Second.
All right. Nomination for Danny Havlicek. Are there any other nominations for clerk? Are there any further nominations for clerk? Are there any further nominations for clerk? If there are no other nominations, the office of clerk are closed, and by acclamation, Benny is now the clerk once again. Congratulations. All right. Nominations are now in the order for treasurer.
I nominate
Oh, sorry.
Kim.
Yeah, are there any nominations? Kim,
Hey,
okay.
Kim.
I'll second the nomination.
Okay. Kim has been nominated. Are there any further nominations for treasurer? Are there any further nominations for treasurer? Are there any further nominations for treasurer? Hearing no other further nominations, for treasurer, it is now closed. And by acclamation, I make you treasurer for 2024. Congratulations. Right, so that piece is done. Moving on, we have a resolution for determining Indigenous Peoples' Day is not considered a legal holiday, and the approval of meeting dates and times for 2024. I don't know if anybody had an opportunity to read through the suggested dates or the dates for 2024. They were in the agenda.
Pretty normal, isn't it?
At this time, I'll entertain a resolution concerning the determining of the fact that Indigenous Peoples' Day is not considered a local legal holiday.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Be it resolved that pursuant to Minnesota statutes, the School Board of Independent School District 721 has determined that Indigenous Peoples' Day is not a school district holiday for the New Prague area schools. How do you vote, Karen?
Can I add something or discuss something? I think it's state law that says if we don't make it a legal holiday, we have to do at least an hour of holiday significance, informing the students of holiday significance. Schools that choose to remain open will need to devote at least 1 hour to informing students about the holiday significance. Legislation came after years of advocacy by tribal nations in Minnesota.
We had the same thing with Martin Luther King Day before it got accepted as a holiday. But
Okay, I just want to make sure that
thank you for adding
that's
that.
in, yep. Well, I vote yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
item passes Dennis, item passes 6-0.
So do we need a second motion for the approval of the meeting dates? Yes. So I'd entertain a motion for the approval of the meeting dates for 2024.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
The first and seconded, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Okay. All right. Next on the agenda is the designation of official district depositories. I know we have a list of those in the agenda. I would entertain a motion to approve that list.
So moved.
Second.
And first and second, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. All right, similarly for the legal counsel, so the designation of all of our legal counsel, there's a list in there as well. I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. All right. Next is the designation of official publication. I'd entertain a motion for that as well.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
And first and second, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Right. 5.7 is set school board compensation. I think the agenda included a board compensation comparison from to other districts. Any discussion regarding this, or do you want to set it as the same as last year?
I'll make a motion to maintain the compensation as it was last year.
Okay. So first,
Second.
Why does the chair say 500
additional.
additional?
And
Okay.
the only thing is too,
That's what I
like,
was thinking
So
too.
we actually took a cut, I mean, we took a 25% pay
Right.
cut, so that, this reflects the normal pay, not the reduced pay that we agreed to for 23-24 school year.
Can we vote on that then? If it hasn't been reduced yet?
This would put it back to the,
Yeah.
what it was, is what you're saying?
Yeah,
We're keeping it the same as what 2023 was.
so 23-24, we actually, we, as part of the budget cuts, we reduced it by 25%. So this right here is the original amount, not the reduced 75.
But the motion was to maintain it as it was last year.
Okay,
Correct.
okay,
Yep, yep.
and I get it.
But not at the 25% reduction, right? Is what you're saying?
It was a
No,
25%
it was, it
reduction.
was at 25% last year, so we're maintaining it.
So, okay, so it is staying at 25% reduced.
Okay, so we want to make sure that's clear. So
That-
that's,
yeah, I was
because that
just
would
gonna
set
say.
it, because I think the difference is, I think how I would have interpreted like the budget cuts would have been that this was a one-time thing. So there's a one-time 25% reduction in our pay for the 23-24 school year. And I think if we act upon it and say back to 3,300 or whatever the amount, I think it's 3,300, then it would revert back to that because that was just like a one-time thing. So, but if we reduce it, then we're putting it at that amount now, that 75% pay, that 25% reduction. So if we want to put that as a permanent going forward until next year, that's kind of that's what your motion was, right?
Right, for this year
Okay.
to be
Yep.
maintained as
So,
last
so
year.
what's on the document's incorrect. We would want to reduce it by the 25%. So to put it at, I think it's 28, is it, what is it? What's 75% of
A math
3,300?
guy? Pick up your shoes and do the math.
Well,
Would it be easier just to run the motion as 75% of what's listed there? And
Yes.
then that would
Yeah,
automatically,
yeah.
without us having to do any math at all?
yeah,
Saved you.
Put your calculator away.
correct, yeah. So it's 2475 is what it is for, is what we're at.
Which is what it was last year.
Yep, which it was, yep, currently. All right, we have a motion for that. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been first and second. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Okay. Next on the agenda is the school board committee assignments, 5.8. There's a listing of everything in there as well, what we currently have. What I want to do tonight is just see if there's, what I want to do is wait for our discussion regarding Jean, because Jean has a couple of, I think, 3 spots on her list. So I kind of want to wait until that spot is filled before we fill or replace her spots. So I think what I want to do tonight is entertain anybody who wants to show any interest or anything in any positions or want to get rid of anything. So then by the next appointment, then we can have a discussion. We'll throw it on our agenda for like a next month or something to kind of solidify our spots. But if everybody's happy with their spots, then we'll see what, I guess.
I'm okay keeping joint powers. I wouldn't mind picking up Jean's policy.
Okay, so, Danny, how about you?
I'll maintain my
Okay.
committee.
I know in the past you've kind of expressed maybe interest in maybe getting some backups or something for yours, or, I know we do
Yes,
have some
yeah,
backups.
right.
Okay,
Somebody to fill my spot if I can't make it.
okay. And that's for CPAC and for,
For both of them.
for both.
I do it for both, of them,
Okay.
sure.
all right. Mark, are you,
I'm fine doing what I am. I
Okay.
can offer to help or fill in for Denny.
okay,
If something happens and he can't go,
okay,
if it fits my schedule. I don't
Okay.
know when they are, but let me know if something comes up.
yeah, bring it back to Karen for the policy. What, the time of that meeting is normally when? Because just so people know, is it,
It's during the day.
on Wednesdays, is that when it is? Once a month?
Okay.
Or? Got it, Okay. And Danny, when are your meetings every month?
The third Tuesday in the month of every month, except December, we don't meet during
Okay, but it'd be every month then, okay.
At what time?
5:30
Afternoon, I hope.
in the afternoon. in Shakopee.
Okay,
Check.
in Shakopee, okay.
And for CPAC, it's by video, what word am I
Zoom?
looking for?
Google Meets or whatever? Yeah,
meetings.
Zoom. Okay,
It has been for the last several years.
okay. Kim, how about,
The only thing I thought of was early childhood. You could probably put me with that if you want, because community ed and early childhood kind of overlap lots of
okay.
times.
And
what they're
Jean was
talking
on that
about.
one?
Yeah.
Okay,
She was on early childhood. I don't know for sure that that's the overlap, but I'll give it a shot.
Do we know when they meet? Okay.
no, something we can check on.
Yeah.
You're taking names for now, if I
Yeah,
understand
that's what
you
I'm,
right,
yeah,
until
that's,
we
yeah.
fill that.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, until.
I don't like anything enough in Wednesdays at 1, so.
You don't like
Anything
anything
enough.
in it?
Well, I can't go Wednesdays at
Okay.
1, so I was interested in policy, but
Okay.
I won't be available consistently at that time, so.
Okay. Otherwise, okay. Okay, all right, good. I'll take notes of this then, kind of have that prepared for the February meeting, then whoever we appoint here, we can talk through that as well, so, okay. All right, good. No other action needed. I'm gonna save that for till February. All right, next on the agenda, the Education Identity and Access Management Board Resolution.
Yes, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to consider appointment of an education, identity, and access management person.
So moved.
There's a second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to consider the following resolution. The Minnesota Department of Education Professional Educator Licensing Standards Board and the Office of Higher Education require annual designation of an identified official with authority for each local educational agency that uses the Education Identity and Access Management System. This person is responsible for authorizing, reviewing, and recertifying user access for their local educational agency in accordance with the State of Minnesota Enterprise Identity and Access Management Standard, which states that all user access rights to Minnesota state systems must be reviewed and recertified at least annually. That person will authorize user access to the State of Minnesota Education Secure Systems in accordance with the user's assigned job duties and will revoke that user's access when it is no longer needed to perform their job duties. The school board or equivalent governing board must designate a person to authorize user access to the State of Minnesota Education Secure websites for our organization. The board resolution must be completed and submitted to the Minnesota Department of Education annually, as well as any time there is a change in the assignment of the identified official or authority. It is strongly recommended that only one person at the local educational agency be designated as that person, and that person will grant the proxy roles as needed. The organization is the the New Prague Area School Boards, and that person is Andy Walmute as our superintendent. How do you vote on this, Karen?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Dennis, yes. Item passes 6-0.
All right, next on the agenda is to designate a board member as the Minnesota State High School League representative.
It is. You were looking at me? Yeah, I can keep doing it.
I mean, just wondering.
Yep.
Wants it?
Nope, that's fine.
Yep. So I'd entertain a motion for,
So moved.
Second.
to leave Mark as the representative. So it's first and seconded. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. All right, we have a resolution to designate the clerk and treasurer duties to the district office staff.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion to consider designating clerk and treasurer duties to the district office staff.
So move.
The second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded considering the resolution as follows. Minnesota statutes empowers the school board to combine the duties of office of clerk and treasurer of the school board in one person in the office of business affairs of the school district. Whereas the school district has decided to combine the duties of the clerk and treasurer in one person in the office of business affairs. Therefore, be resolved that the director of business services of the school district is designated by the school board of Independent School District 721 to perform the duties of clerk and treasurer of the district. And who is that person that we are designated? Who is that?
Andy,
Is there a name?
Andy and Janelle, right? Or as clerk, yeah.
Director of Business Services.
Sandy Lynn, Director of
Sandy Lynn.
Business Services, yes.
Officially, yeah, okay. All right, how do you vote on this, Dan?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Dennis, yes. Item passes 6-0.
All right. Next on the agenda is to authorize specified district staff to make electronic or paper transactions from any institution for the district through January of 2025. So I would entertain a motion for that, to give them that authority.
So moved.
Second.
And first and seconded, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. All right, next on the agenda is to authorize the superintendent or the director of business services to execute contracts and purchase orders for goods and services contained within the board-approved budget. So I'd entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
Second.
First and seconded, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next on the agenda is to review the board procedures, board handbook, policy 206, which is the policy, public participation in meetings, and policy 209, the code of ethics. So I don't think there's any action items here. It's just more of like, yep. Okay. Yep. So I think it just was on the agenda more for, just to make sure everybody was reviewing these policies. Any comments or?
We need
Should
to
probably update the pictures.
Yeah, I just was looking
Well,
at
now we
that.
gotta wait.
Got a
though.
few.
We gotta
well,
wait for a
Yeah.
month, but
Leo
They
and
should get
Tammy
redone.
are still on here. Dan's.
That doesn't bother me all that much.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I
We don't need
get
a
it.
picture.
I get it. I get it.
The links
Well, if
for
four
the
of us have
policies
to
also
be
need to
on
be
there, the
updated in
rest
this
of
one
you
for the new
do too.
website.
I thought we were gonna have to take it tonight, and I didn't do my hair.
Website links for policies and things like that are broken with the new website as well on this one.
Okay. All right, otherwise, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
It's been first and seconded. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. All right, so the only action item we have here is what we announced earlier on, is we have a, so we approve the process, we want to approve the process to fill the board vacancy. So in the last time this happened, which was actually when I got appointed, what we did was we opened up for a couple of weeks, I think 2 to 3 weeks or 2 weeks. I don't remember I think we have I have a timeline, we had worked on it a little bit, but we'd basically leave it open we'd prove that applications could be submitted. And then I think of the next meeting, which is that overlap the meeting in January, but the first meeting in February, which is the work session, we would conduct interviews then of those applicants. And then we would appoint what we, as the board decision, vote for that individual, then we'd appoint that individual at the normal meeting in February. That was kind of the timeline we had kind of put together for that.
So we would vote that night of the work session? Or we would vote on the
The
board?
night when we would have after the interviews.
Yeah.
The interviews would be at the work
but
session.
but we wouldn't
Meeting.
appoint them technically until the real
Right,
meeting.
officially, they would be appointed
Yeah,
at the board
at the
meeting.
board
Okay,
meeting.
but we would vote that night?
Yes.
Okay,
yep,
then
yep,
we make it
after-
official
after
the following.
interviews, yep.
Okay,
So we'd have a special meeting. So we'd have the work session and then a special meeting, because
Okay.
those interviews would have to be they're public, it's a public
Yep.
meeting, so, go ahead.
So I can just add a little bit more detail. The announcements tonight, you make a decision tonight, and you have the opportunity to make any decision you want. You can appoint someone tonight, you can do an interview process like we're talking about. I think what Matt described is we would have an application window open. We would use some of the same materials that were used in the past. We'd modify them a little bit. So if you think of approximate dates, January 10th through the 26th, I think that's enough time to advertise it, to get it out, to give people an opportunity to research it a little bit and fill out the application. I don't think the application is anything too challenging, but we do want people to put some thought into that. It would close then on the 26th. It would give us time to prepare for the study session. We would give an update at the school board at our business meeting on the 22nd. Then on the 12th, we would go into a special meeting to do interviews of the study session. You'd make that decision that night if you could, and then the person would be appointed on the 26th and take their seat at that time.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I looked it up. Once the board approves the appointment, that member cannot be seated until 30 days after the appointment.
But two things happen in here. Say that again. At 30 days tonight.
No, from the time the person is,
Oh,
because you have to give.
okay.
Yeah.
So
Did
they
anybody
wouldn't
contest
be
it?
able to take their seat until March
Yep.
officially.
Okay. Would we want to get that person seated earlier? Would we want to do it that night on the work session? Or does it, instead of waiting till the regular meeting in February? I don't know, just tossing it out there.
We could then have that person for the work session
If we're
in
gonna vote
March,
that night anyways, we could make that appointment,
at a special meeting.
yeah, at that same special meeting in February.
I can ask some of those questions to see if we can expedite that way. If that's the will of the board and, it abides by the 30-day window, I can ask
Yeah,
those questions.
it would just move it up 2 weeks essentially. I mean,
Yeah.
so, is anybody opposed to that idea? If we're gonna vote that night anyways on
Right.
that person, we could easily,
I think it should
As
be
long as we
done.
maintain the 30-day,
yeah, then they wouldn't be
Holiday.
seated until, they wouldn't be seated until March anyhow then, like the work session,
Yeah.
we could swear them in at that time.
I think there's probably a way to work around it. I've read that. I'd have to look at that again and consult with some people and adjust the timeline. But we can definitely, if that's the will of the group, try to find a way to make
But I
that
think at
happen.
this point though, everybody's comfortable with like opening up a window for interviews, because I think that's the most fair, that's what we did in the past, so I kinda wanna keep with tradition, I guess, and just say, that's how we'll do it.
yeah, it's really been the way procedure that's been done over the years in that manner.
Okay,
Were you interviewed?
yeah. I was the only interviewer.
They picked you anyway? Seriously?
But I was like trying
You
to
just sit there and
remember.
review, yeah, I picked the fifth.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there thinking, did I win? Yeah.
Were you nervous?
I was kinda nervous, it was kind of intimidating, to be honest with you.
Like meet the press.
For me, if we're voting on replacing a voting member of the board, I would recommend in that special session, we allow the public to comment and weigh in as well for people who have interest in it as well, since it is an important seat and has a lot of impact for how the public goes.
We'll have like a public comment portion, basically kinda like how we
On
have,
the
like-
candidates?
Yeah, I'd let people come speak in support and things like that to the board before a new voting member is voted on.
Sure,
That's kind of a mouthful.
yeah. Is anybody opposed to that idea of having like a open forum, I guess? It'd be an open forum. So it'd be
I don't think that's a good idea. The candidate can speak for themselves.
I would, just off the top of my head, it makes me uncomfortable to think that somebody might get up and say, not this one. Somebody gets up and says, yes, this one, that's fine, that would be okay, but I don't want necessarily something negative to come out about one of the candidates.
We're the representatives of the public. We just got elected to do it, so I don't see any benefits
I think
to
that would be
that.
going beyond the letter of the law, actually. I think we are the people that make the final decision, and I don't think that public comment at that time would be appropriate.
I don't think it would be either.
The public gets to see the candidates. and we're voting and choosing a candidate before they have any time to contact us by email, by letter, by phone call, and weigh in and try to voice their opinion on it. And so, especially if we go with a compressed timeline, I am very uncomfortable with us having selected a candidate before the public really gets to be introduced to them and have everything sealed before anybody in the public gets to weigh in.
There's potential that this candidate might have been in the previous election and possibly could have already been voted on within the last year, which I think says the public already spoke.
Janelle,
Let's see who applies.
explain what you said before, is that we have to give the public time to... There we go. So that 30 days. Okay, so we do have 30 days to contest.
And couldn't somebody
And the public
contest
would be
that
able
way
to do
instead of
that.
coming to the open forum?
Yes.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
probably why they put that part
I
of
mean-
the law
Exactly.
in place.
I
But that's-
certainly
that's
wouldn't
not
want
a-
to be
that's
sitting
not
here
a
and have somebody
public-
say something negative.
Well, and there's always risks when these selections are made that something negative can be said. But I think it's always a mistake for elected officials to entirely bypass the public's input opportunities. And so if the people are announced, interviewed, they're voted on, and it's selected, I think saying I advocate for something is way different than saying I need to overturn something that's already been voted on. And the expectation of input from our community, I think, is significantly less. We talk about how we want community or communication, and I think it's a mistake to have us all voted and have everything locked in before the community has time to weigh in. And if we don't like them weighing in publicly, we should consider giving them time to email us, call us, and give their input on this decision.
So I would, if we play out the timeline, Mr. Call, I would say that the people that we would interview, so I'm looking at my dates again. If we did go with the timeline that I proposed, February 12th, or that was proposed, those names would be public leading up to that. Am I not right? So your name, Matt,
Yep.
was public prior to that. So now that does not necessarily give them as much as I think you're implying. But if there were 5 people who were interested in this position, we would have to publicize those names in advance of the meeting on the 12th, like we do for a normal meeting. And then if someone had strong feelings and they wanted to reach out to the board, they would be able to do that. That's not completely what you're asking for, I don't believe, but I'm just adding that to the discussion. The other thing that I would say is, one of the things that the School Board Association would say, I'm just throwing this out for discussion, is that you want to make sure that you take care, care and concern. We're going to talk about care and concern for people who are going to be potentially impacted by budget decisions we have to make. We want to make care and concern for the people who apply for these positions. And if there's more than one of them, they're going to be winners and they're going to be losers. Mm-hmm. And what I would encourage the board to think about, how you can incentivize people to be willing to take this risk and to do these things, because there aren't traditionally a lot of people who are going to throw their hat in the ring to be saying, I want to be a part of the school board. I offer that up as just something to think about. So I don't know, Dan, if it gets to the point of that full level of engagement that you're describing, but their names would be public leading up to this, right?
Yep, it sounds like it.
People have concerns, they can contact us with the concerns and let us know, or with some good recommendations that this person is really a highly respected person that they think is, they have every right to do that. And I think this law was written like this with that intention to, I guess get that kind of a comment from potential people that support somebody or don't support somebody.
Yeah, and I guess I was even say too, like, the appointment process, I mean, right now, we could just appoint someone,
Yes.
right, without any application process at all. So I think we're doing a pretty thorough
We're going above and beyond
job the
right
way it
now.
is. So, and I guess I would say, maybe we don't have to do the expedited, just, vote that night and make sure it's all, I mean, we could always, I think we will discuss that portion of it, but, I think we have those interviews for sure that night and then see whether we have to wait 30 days or not.
Yeah, and we're going out of our way by having it open like this, with people being allowed to apply, to give people a chance to do it. So I think we're being very fair as far as allowing anybody who has an interest to come forward.
Right, and like I said, last time we did this, the only person that applied was in the previous election, and I think was the next highest vote getter. So the people have spoken.
I would,
If that happens again, we'll see, but, I mean, to have a valid election less than a year away, if somebody applies and has been in it,
I would feel, I'm just going to throw this out, would feel much more comfortable handling a lot of emails and a lot of calls with people who have information they would like to share with me than to have them share it publicly
Yeah.
about our
That too.
candidates.
Yeah, you'd be treading on some.
It would make me
Rocky
uncomfortable.
ground there.
Yeah.
I have pretty thick skin, and I'm not sure I'd want to stand out there.
I'm nervous right now.
All right, so we've got a lot of discussion. So overall, I think that we have a process that we kind of mostly feel comfortable with. So do we want to take action on this, right, to kind of approve this process? So I would entertain a motion to follow the kind of the outline that Mr. Volmuth put through, kind of that schedule, opening up applications on the 10th, closing them on the 26th, and then with interviews on the special meeting at the next work session meeting in February.
With the addendum that the names are published before the 12th.
Yes, so as soon as,
We can do that? Okay.
right, I mean, we can do that. There's no rule against that, do you think? Like the
I think that's
releasing those
public
names?
information.
If
I
they
think those
apply,
names-
we can release them at that point on the 26th?
And they can be put on the website,
Put in the paper, any break
I-
times.
I would say one more thing and then I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Call, with the understanding that the details would need to be finalized on the January 22nd business meeting. So can we expedite it? Do we want to expedite it? We would have that discussion then.
Yeah.
Once we've had an opportunity to, I didn't bring that information out with me. I had some of that sitting in my office. But we would bring that to you in advance, and then you could make that final decision about process and.
Because the
timeline.
applications will be open at that time still, at the next
Yeah.
meeting, so.
I'll
Okay.
turn it, Dan, you were trying to say something?
And so I'm just trying to make sure I'm clear on what the proposal is, and that includes us selecting the candidate right after the interview process. Is that a correct understanding of what proposals in motion right now, or is that undefined?
Well, I feel
can't
like
quite
that's-
tell.
I don't want to be fuzzy here, I want to get this right, but I think it's undefined a little bit because it's a question about, to your comments about
The third-
community engagement, we'll just, and then where does the board want to sit with that? And can we expedite it to get through that 30 days? And I need to go back and look at that language. So I don't know if you maybe can not take a vote because it's a little fuzzy, but.
Can we table this?
But I can bounce it back to
And
you.
then, out of curiosity, what's the need to have it filled within 30 days per se, or something like that? Is there something coming up that's a rush?
No, I think the 30 days was just us trying to get someone seated in
Okay.
there, yeah. And the 30 days, it seems like that's a statutory thing where we have to,
Yeah.
after we've announced it, we have to open up 30 days afterwards to give people time to raise any issues with that person, so. Because I think a lot of times someone just appoints and there's no
Yep.
application process.
And if there's only one
so-
person, it makes it really easy.
Yeah.
You know, it's,
Right,
I'm just going to throw this out there. If for whatever reason it happens that we don't seat this person until March, then we're missing any January committee meetings and February committee meetings that person might be sitting on. So we just leave them as is? Okay. Thank you.
That's all we can do, I guess.
Okay.
Well, it's kind of the reason we want to get them in.
Yeah,
so
that
they
was
get
kind of the reason for the, kind of get
acclimated
the,
and can do.
plus we have some decisions that we need to be making this spring
Right.
here too, so that's
Yeah,
why.
it's not
yeah.
necessarily a certain thing, it's just getting them on board and learning what they need.
Well, there's
to know.
nothing to say the person can't sit in the room and take in all the information, they just
Right,
won't actively be
right,
on the board.
right, true.
and I assume during the 30 days, I assume they could speak and participate in conversation, just not vote, would be the only restriction of a non-seated board?
I would think they'd just be a guest in the audience.
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
be my guess too. We can nail this down at the next meeting, maybe, if we can get some of those questions answered.
So there-
But-
Was there a motion on the table, and do we need to act, and is there enough information to act, I think is a question for you all to decide.
I guess here's what I would like. I would entertain a motion to open up the application process by the 10th, so this week through the 26th, with the anticipation of interviews occurring that first week at work session
Work
meeting
session
in
in
February.
12.
And maybe that's where we could stop, and then we could clarify things later. But I would like to at least get that process approved.
That in motion?
So move.
Second.
Discussion, please. With
Discussion.
just making the 10th an approximate, just because that's Wednesday, tonight, and we want to, it may not get open by the 10th, but by the end of this week, the application will be out. We'll have publicized it, and that gives 2 full weeks for people. I don't know if we'll be able to turn it over by Wednesday, but by the end of this week. Fair?
There.
Yes.
So move.
Second.
Then first and second, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. All right, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the organizational meeting.
So moved.
Second.
The first and second, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. All right, so now we're in the work session portion of our meeting tonight.
Moving over there, we're staying here.
Are we gonna go over there now? Yeah, let's move off the,
We're coming back here?
yes.
Have
so
to.
we